call everybody name? No, they ain't doing that. After this is pretty much over.
Thanks, Max. To all of today's graduates, I can't imagine what's going through your minds right now. I never had the opportunity to go to a great university like this. I didn't get here today like you did, by studying hard and excelling in school. Yet here I stand before you at this amazing crossroads in your life.
Basically saying everything you did, I have to.
So the question of the hour is, what can I teach you? How can I help you, even in the slightest way, to be ready for whatever comes next? So I asked myself, how did I get here? After a lot of thought, I realized there have been 2 life lessons that changed everything in my life. These were moments that shook me, scared me, and humbled me. In the end, these moments are 2 big reasons I am here today. And since my education came in the music business, you may recognize some of the names and think, how can this guy's stories possibly apply to me? Yet I truly believe these 2 experiences apply to absolutely anyone and anything you want to do in this journey called life. Let's start with something I learned when I was 23 years old. Not much older than most of you guys. It's been the subtext to whatever success I've had. I've tried to instill this lesson in everyone who works for me. And those who have learned it still work for me. I started my career as a second engineer, which sounds fancy, but the reality is that I answer the phones, I clean the floors, and I make tea and coffee. That may not sound impressive, but it allowed me to learn my business from the ground up. And it's the kind of entry-level job that anybody starting a career should be happy to take. And it got me in the same building with John Lennon, who after 50 cups of tea that I served him, felt the enthusiasm and my willingness to learn, and allowed me to sit in on some of his sessions. From there, I got the opportunity to work with Bruce Springsteen, to help him record an album called Born to Run. Born to Run became a landmark album. If you don't know Born to Run, ask your parents. But to my mother and father and their friends, Born to Run wasn't Bruce Springsteen's album. It was Jimmy Iovine's album. They thought it was all about me. And before long, I began to believe that fantasy too. So I was thrilled when Bruce and his manager, producer John Lennon, asked me to engineer the follow-up that eventually became Darkness on the Edge of Town. Back in those days, the first thing he did when making an album was record the drums. The job of getting the right drum sound fell to the recording engineer, and that was me. We spent 6 weeks working around the clock, trying to get the sound that Bruce Springsteen had in his head. And no matter what we did, it just wasn't coming. You can't imagine everything we did. We put the drums in the hallway, we put the drums in the elevator, we put the drums in the bathroom. We did everything but put the drums underwater. All I can remember is Bruce saying to me, Jimmy, I hear the stick hitting the drum. At a certain point, I looked at him and I said, Bruce, it is a stick hitting a drum. But he was the boss, and that didn't satisfy him. We were stuck. The sound we were getting was clunk, 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 and the sound Bruce wanted was boom, boom, boom. So eventually Bruce suggested bringing in some other guy from New Jersey of all places. You can help me get this elusive drum sound. And I thought, why do I need help? What am I, half as good as I was 2 years ago? To me, it sounded like a massive vote of no confidence. After 6 weeks of putting a microphone everywhere you could possibly imagine, I felt humiliated. I felt embarrassed. To use a word I hear way too often from 20-year-olds that work for me, I felt disrespected. I felt Bruce's manager looked me straight in the eye and said, "Hang on, Jimmy. I'm going to tell you something that will go against every instinct you have about how to react in a situation like this. This is not about you." Wow. Bruce's manager said, "I want you to understand something called the big picture." I had never heard of this big picture before. In my mother's house, I was the big picture. Bruce's manager continued, "And at a moment like this, it's not about you, how you feel, Jimmy. It's about Bruce Springsteen and his album. That's the big picture, not your feelings or anyone's feelings." Inside, I had absolutely no idea what John meant. I wanted to scream. I wanted to argue. I wanted to walk. But for reasons I still think about decades later, I did the opposite. I didn't protect my ego. Instead, I paused for just a moment and listened to someone who might actually know better than me. So I told John, "You've got it." Because I did want to learn. And this advice sounded like Aristotle to me. I had no idea who Aristotle was, but I loved his name. John told me, "I want you to walk in that room and tell Bruce, I'm here to support you. I will do whatever you need me to do." So that's what I did. Turned out, the other guy from New Jersey couldn't get the drum sound either. Somehow we got closer to the sound Bruce wanted, and we moved on together. 6 weeks later, not only was I still on Bruce's team, but he also gave me one of the greatest songs he ever wrote, called "Because the Night," that I got to produce for Patti Smith. That was my first hit record as a producer and launched my career. Listening to John's 5 words, "This is not about you," became the tipping point for every gift that followed in my life. At that moment, I began to learn how to push aside my own personal issues and my desperate need to be right, so I could focus on what was truly important, the greater good. Don't worry, I wasn't cured. I still battle with these issues of insecurity, ego, pride, and especially fear every day. Too often those issues get in the way of seeing the big picture. But what I have learned is some of these powerful insecurities can be harnessed to life's greatest motivator, the greatest 5-hour energy drink ever. It's called a little old-fashioned fear. I know about fear. I was once fired from 2 jobs within 90 days. I felt as if the sidewalk was collapsing behind me. But that insecure feeling always kept moving me forward. Rather than stop me in my tracks like a headwind, I began to learn how to make those same insecurities the tailwinds to propel me forward. Okay, now let's fast forward a little bit, about 25, 30 years. My second pivotal life lesson came in 1999, and now I was feeling like king of the world. I had built the hottest record company in the world, Interscope Records, the home of great artists like Dr.Dre, Tupac, No Doubt, Eminem, the Black Eyed Peas, and we had just signed U2. We were on a roll. We felt invincible. Nothing could touch us, except Napster. As the founder of Interscope Records, a company built on people paying for music, I was instantly scared to death. My God-given insecurities kicked in again. See, I grew up in Brooklyn. My dad was a longshoreman. So I knew the difference between going to a store and paying for something and the opportunity to get it for free. I felt this stealing thing could really catch on. So I went to see one of the founding guys at Intel named Les Valdez. Somehow I thought I could reason with the industry that was about to destroy mine. Fear, at times, makes us protect and defend what we think we already know. But sometimes in life, you need to learn a new lesson. And between you and me, in my experience, the most intelligent people that I meet are the ones that best can articulate what they don't know. That's He looked me in the eye and said, "Wow, Jimmy, what a nice story. But you know what? Not every industry was made to last forever." That statement was so profound and so true and so insightful to me, so devastating, I nearly retired right there and then. I walked into Les' office thinking I was Elvis, and I was gently reminded that Elvis was dead. The lesson Les taught me is one I believe is increasingly important to learn in the fast-changing world we live in today. Think about this. Everything you know could already be wrong. When I got outside Les' office and stopped sweating, I called my buddy Doug Morris, the chairman of the Universal Music Group, and my boss at the time. I said, "Doug, we're screwed." Okay, I didn't use that exact word, but hey, I was really upset. I said, "Doug, these guys don't want our land. They want our water to take back to their land." At that moment, I was scared to death. In fact, at this moment, I'm scared to death. Speaking in front of all you people. But I want you to all get comfortable with your fears, because fear is a fact of life that you can use to your advantage. Because when you learn to harness the power of your fears, it can take you places beyond your wildest dreams. Because here's the good news. Fear has a lot of firepower. I spent my life working with many of my heroes, and maybe some of yours too. From John Lennon to Bruce to Bono, Tupac and Eminem. And let me tell you, I never met a great artist who wasn't afraid of not living up to people's expectations. But all of the great artists use their fears to inspire them. I think today of the way John Lennon broke ground by speaking of his fears, his belief in change in a song called Working Class Hero. John sang, "When they tortured and scared you for 20-odd years, they expect you to pick a career. When you can't really function, you're so full of fear. A working class hero is something to be." John was a guy who could really express his fear and also conquer them. In the music business back in 2003, we were standing at a crossroads. We could desperately defend the past and keep digging that same hole, or we could open our eyes to the future. Trust me, it's a lot harder to change directions at 50 than at 25. Ask your parents. Les inspired me that day to go forward in a music business that was evolving. The old model was changing. So I began to think that maybe there was some way to harness this culture of the old music business in a whole new way. Around that time, I was lucky enough to get to know Steve Jobs from Apple. I was representing Universal Music in dealing with iTunes. After 3 years of hanging around Steve and his team, I thought, I could learn a lot from these guys. They were breaking new ground. They were changing the game. They were winning. I noticed how Steve took all the music and videos from around the world and built a beautiful, shiny white thing called the iPod to play them on. We love this shiny little white thing. The only part my friend Dr. Dre and I didn't like were the shiny little white earbuds that came with the shiny white iPod because they sounded terrible. Sound wasn't Apple's focus. So we thought, what if we make a shiny, beautiful black thing so you can properly hear what's on Steve's iPod? So with my friend Dr. Dre, there we had the beginning of Beats headphones. It wasn't that simple, but you get the idea. I learned even at 50, I had to be a beginner again. And that's as zen a moment as you'll ever hear from me. So who believed that Dr. Dre and I could sell hardware? No one. But we believed in ourselves. We harnessed our fear and turned it into action. Today, each one of you have an excellent reason to believe in yourselves. You have earned a degree from USC. You are graduating from one of the greatest universities in the world. Remember when you grew up hearing about people that are privileged? Congratulations, you are now privileged. Because you know what privilege means? It means you have an edge. And whatever your background, wherever you come from, you now have the undeniable edge of a first-class education.
45 minutes, I think. It'll go for like 45 minutes.
Please remember this. Your diploma does not represent the end of your education, but the beginning of your continuing education. Continue to learn with humility, not hubris. Hubris is boring. Because that diploma you hold in your hand today is really just your learner's permit for the rest of the drive through your life. Remember, you don't have to be smarter than the next person. All you have to be is smart enough and be willing to work harder than the next person. And looking at all these camping grounds out here, you're smart enough. So now that you've heard stories about that have changed my life, it's time for an announcement that we hope will change some of the lives for the better here at the University of Southern California. Walking around USC today, it seems like everyone's a doctor. Which is funny, because I brought my partner today, who also happens to be a doctor. So in the words of the great Slim Shady, will the real Dr. Dre please stand up and join me on stage? That's a trick I say for the end.
Yeah, make some noise, Trojans! Yeah, first I would like to say congratulations to Dr. Jimmy Iovine. I like the way that sounds. I would also like to thank all of the amazing people here at USC that made it possible for us to build an academy at this incredible university. I'm excited and I am proud to now be a member of the Trojan family. And I would also like to say congratulations to the University of Southern California's class of 2013.
At Beats, Dr. Dre and I found it really difficult to find kids with an education that encompasses technology, the arts, and innovation. So with USC, we're creating a brand new program right here. It's called the Jimmy Iovine and Andre Young Academy of Technology, Arts, and the Business of Innovation. The class of 2013 is among the first in history to have grown up in our new world where distinction between the arts and technology are disappearing. That's a good thing. So Dre and I are teaming with this great institution to create a new kind of academy to address this reality. We want to do our part to prepare more brilliant students to do great and unexpected things. What we want are schools, dream factories that are broad enough to inspire, challenge, satisfy the curiosity of the next wave of game changers that have a feel for technology and the liberal arts. That's what we plan to do right here at USC. Now I'd like to address the students for a second. In closing, because I believe people doing the unexpected and being innovative, I would like to try something that's never been done in a major graduation before. Rather than quote William Shakespeare or Robert Frost, I close with the words of my favorite poet, R. Kelly, who penned my favorite karaoke anthem. So let tonight be your reward, all of your hard work, and be the ignition to the continuing education for the rest of your lives. is the remix to Ignition. You're hot, fresh out the kitchen. You've got the entire
remix Ignition.
You've got every graduate wishing. Parents, they may be sipping on some rum and coke. They might even get a little drunk. So what? It's their graduation, baby. And tonight they're gonna have some fun. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here. We gotta screw. I'm